All right, welcome back to another Esports Weekly Roundtable. This week we are going to talk about console first-person shooter esports, and I am joined alongside by Ben Bow, otherwise known as Benson, MLG commentator. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. And of course, to his left, we have the one and only Goldenboy, Alex Mendez. How are you doing, man?
Doing great, man. I don't know why you got this guy here. All you need is me. That's it.
Starts already, man. It starts already.
I would expect nothing less.
It's been a minute and already the heat is slinging.
How are we going to get these guys to talk at all? Jeez.
I know.
So we're talking about console first-person shooters, and this is something that's very near and dear to my heart. My very first competitive gaming experiences were grabbing 4 Xboxes and playing Halo 1 till the wee hours of the morning, like I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this. My first esports watching experience was the old MLG Halo tournaments before I transitioned and got into StarCraft. This is the forerunner of all of my esports experience. Now, though, it has seemed like it's in a bit of a precarious place as other esports have gotten a lot bigger. Some have thought that these scenes have decreased. So my very first question to you guys is point blank. How do you feel about the health of console FPS esports right now?
Laying it down, man. You got the tough questions, man. Esports Weekly. Whew. No, I think I think console esports is in a good place right now. We are treated a little bit different in comparison to PC esports, right? A lot of PC players look at us and they think it's a joke, right? You can't compete on a controller, listen, if you have a passion to compete, and you want to do it, it's competition, it's esports, it's there, right? And I think that right now, the current space is in a good place, and more and more companies are getting involved, which I think is fantastic. More of the publishers are getting involved, starting to get more dev support, which is fantastic.
I think that's the key for me, is just seeing more of those developers get involved within the console side of things. Obviously, we've had, past couple of years, Call of Duty Esports has done pretty well. You've seen some World Champions come out, which we didn't really have previously. So I think the growth is definitely there, and I'm excited for the future. I really am.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you guys think that it's not necessarily a case of maybe console FPS games decreasing in popularity over the past few years? Maybe this is just a case where they've lost a bit of visibility, maybe by the mainstream esports fans, because everything else has gotten so freaking big?
Yeah, I think, look, the fact of the matter is, and I'm getting comfortable, that's how you know it's about to get real.
Drop it on us, Alex, I'm going to hear it.
Come on, hey, lay it down. Anyway, no, I think that it's unrealistic for everyone to want League of Legends or Counter-Strike, right? That's always like the comparison that I see. For example, coming from a Halo background, as well as Call of Duty, but like you, Kevin, I also, cut my teeth playing Halo 1v1s on Halo 1, like in LAN parties and all that. But I think the major thing is that for a lot of these players and a lot of these fans, they look at it and they're like, I want that, right? They don't think about like how hard it is to get there and how much work it takes to get there. And I think that, there are a lot of perfect storms that had erupted, and I think it's fantastic for the rest of the esports space. I think League of Legends, perfect storm. Counter-Strike is definitely the perfect storm. But
especially lately.
Yeah, especially lately. But when you look at console, I think it's in a good spot. It's just going to take a little bit more work. People just are coming around to it, little by little. It's not easy. And,
you're seeing more and more of it, though. Like recently, like for example, Halo getting a little bit more involved in console esports.
Yeah,
than we've really seen
dude,
before.
I remember like years ago, you were hard pressed to get Bungie like involved. Like MLG did a really good job of like trying to get Bungie involved, but Bungie just wasn't that kind of company, right? They weren't really esports focused. They didn't understand it, and not a lot of people did at the time, right? Which is completely fine. But then, now, like 343, they are very gung-ho on esports. It's so much so that the Halo World Championship is a thing. HCS, right, that was another huge success. So, like, they look at that and they're like, we want to take this to the umpteenth degree, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, but what took so long, though? I mean, because we had Call of Duty, Halo at the top of the esports world for a lot of years. Then you saw the League of Legends come in with their first-party system by developers. What has turned things around and what's made them realize we have to pay attention to esports now?
I think you can say console esports has been a little bit more reactive as opposed to proactive. You see the PC guys kind of just say, like Valve, for example, hey, this is a great idea. We believe in esports. Let's go all in. Let's jump into it. Whereas on the console side of things, the developers are a little bit more wary, I think it's fair to say, just taking a little bit more caution. But now I think we're finally at that point where a lot of the developers realize, hey, this esports thing, hey, this actual thing. People are good at our video game, and they should play for a lot of money and make this a career. So
I also do want to say, too, right, a lot of the companies are not looking at it as marketing, right? Esports has been free marketing for a lot of games for a very long time. And it's a way to immediately activate your most engaged user, which is the person who's playing 24 hours a day, right? And you're starting to see kind of a change in that where people are pandering more to those kinds of gamers rather than the ones that are looking for that one and done experience. They want people who are going to sit there and play the game, and it's across the board, I believe.
Sure.
Right? There's a lot of quality games coming out that are just demanding people's time and attention, as opposed to, and this isn't even just FPS. It's from anything like you look at Mario Maker, or you look at Dark Souls 3, right? Like, or Bloodborne, like those kinds of games like just demand your time and attention. And Destiny, even better example, right? Of just a game where people are just hooked on, right?
Yeah.
And that's where everything's going, and that's why you're going to start seeing more developers treating their games as services, and because of that, they're going to invest into esports because it is a part of that natural swing of things.
Yeah, and I think Destiny is a very good, stepping stone to, what's going on next as well, because we have all these other games coming out. Overwatch is on the horizon.
Yes.
I'm excited too.
Doom is going to be coming back around as well, and even then, we had the Gears HD remix essentially.
Yeah.
Now, it's like, now even shooters are getting their HD remix versions as well. So what is next on the horizon? Like, just coming from your perspectives, what could potentially be the next big thing?
Interesting. Well, actually,
That's a tough
I
question.
do want to comment on something real quick. I mean, you had mentioned a lot of those games, and I would have to say that you're even seeing that more hardcore experience coming through. Battleborn is another good example of here's Gearbox, amazing dev. They made Borderlands, great game, and what do they end up doing? They're like, we're gonna make a competitive shooter, right? That has some MOBA features, and I played it, and it's a great game.
Was it?
I loved it. I thought it was fun. Yeah, I liked it. I played it at GameStop Managers Expo, and it was really fun. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, but you know what, man? I'm a positive guy. That thing that kills me.
And you'll be able to play it soon because that beta's coming out pretty soon.
Exactly, right? I don't know.
I'll
What
give it a
about
try.
you?
I'll give it a try.
Answer the man's question. What do you think?
I don't know. For me, that's a tough question because I look at, for console esports especially, I think you need kind of the flagship games like your Call of Duty and Halo to really kind of break out and really show everyone else in console esports that, hey, this can be done and it can be done well with great production, great prizes, and some very competitive teams. You go outside of that, honestly, as crazy as this sounds, Destiny really has something to it, I think. When we see private matches introduced and when we see a couple more updates come to that, I mean, the game is essentially made for a steady alliance.
So that's
span.
actually,
It's huge.
you're actually preempting a question I was going to ask in a bit, but I think it's good to discuss it now. Destiny is massively popular.
Yeah,
it's huge.
For as much as everyone was ragging on Bungie initially for not delivering the content that they were expecting, they sure got their loyal fan base, and they got people that are willing to play incredible amounts of hours each week.
Yes.
So usually, a predicator for success in esports is, do you have a large community that's willing to engage with your game over time? Great. Do you think Destiny is the next big console FPS esport?
Next big one, that's tough because I think you have to look at Destiny, for me at least, as that's going to be a 2-year thing. I think you have to look very, very down the road. It's a long-term kind of a game, especially when it comes to esports. But again, a lot of it depends. What are the developers going to try and do with it? Can they try and incorporate potentially World Championship, Pro Leagues, things like that, which really do drive the esports? But you kind of hit the nail on the head there. They already have that massive, massive fan base.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the numbers on Twitch pretty much every single day.
Yeah,
There
it's
are
always in
thousands of people
It's
playing
always
this
in
game.
our top 10. which
Always.
is
Every
very
single time you
impressive.
log onto the website. And there's dedicated fans that are watching. There's, great
So-
players as well. Some of the players are very, very talented.
I just want to say, again, just echo on that statement about games being a service. Destiny's a service,
Yes.
right? And there is no doubt in my mind that they will look at that. And I know people who currently try to organize tournaments in Destiny, and that's kind of where everything goes, right? It always starts with those people who are like, damn, we really want to take this to another level. We just want to compete. I just want to prove in a controlled environment that I'm better than you, right? And that's it. That's all competitive gaming is. But I think it's going to take time, and that's not a core of what Destiny is. So I don't know if that's where they want to lean it to. I wouldn't be opposed to it though.
I think
it's a good
the
idea.
big thing though is you see a lot of the players kind of nudging it. That is where they want it to go,
That's true.
which is the key. Maybe the developers aren't too keen on the idea of esports, but if a big part of your fan base is saying, hey, we want private matches, we want to play competitively, I want to prove I'm better than Goldenboy, for example, at Destiny. There comes a point where the developer simply has to listen to the community. Definitely true. And for example,
I don't like that.
listen, okay, I'm telling facts, okay, facts. But when it comes to Destiny, MLG ran a couple of Destiny tournaments where it's very, very difficult. You think, okay, how can I prove that I'm better than him at Destiny right now? Well, they did kind of like time trials on raids, for example, and just gave different challenges. And the community really, really kind of respected that and loved it and said, hey, you know, we can actually play this game competitively now. Because I feel like just that competitive nature in absolutely anything, sports, video games, it adds so much.
And there's a lot of variance in those games as well. Because you know, also even that time trials thing, that's something like people who are fans of like Payday 2 can even get into, which would make me so incredibly happy. But you know, even though like
Summit happy too.
oh man,
Well, of course.
but also with Destiny, you know, in anticipation of like Battle War as well, you know, there's also you know the whole questing mechanic and getting weapons and gear and everything. To me, it almost actually kind of seems like WoW. Almost, it's kind of like a hybrid thing. So there's you know all regulations and rules maybe made around that, around things like that. But also in the shooter space, you know, we've seen hybrids before that maybe were not received very well. Yeah, I'm gonna take a step back. This might be an old name. Shadowrun.
Yes, it's my favorite game of all
Thank you,
time.
thank you.
Fasa, come back.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing, though. Is like
Por favor.
hybrids
Come
like
back, Fasa.
Leave the Spanish.
hybrids like that though have not you know
Calm down. Calm down.
performed
It's
very
okay.
well though.
good.
So I mean, do you think that's kind of setting Destiny back a little bit into its widestream acceptance?
Shadowrun, if you don't mind.
I would love to hear
That
this.
Lay it
was
on. You set
that
him off. You
was
set him off
the
now.
That game was ahead of its time.
It actually
It was.
was. Oh,
I know a lot of diehard Shadowrun fans hated it, which is fine. I don't want Shadowrun as far as like the brand is concerned. I don't care. I just want that game again on my Xbox or my PlayStation. Like I don't care because it was so well done. It was Counter-Strike with magic and with all these different things. And you laugh.
No,
but
it really was.
awesome.
It was.
It was amazing. I mean,
it was just so ahead of its time, though. Like
I will
people kind of
always-
looked at it and
that's
was like,
I will always give a shout out to my homie Chris Puckett,
Yep.
who helped push Shadowrun to MLG.
He
and
still talks about the game to
it's
this day.
because it was amazing, okay? Ninja Troll strats, like it was amazing. Like, dude, I can go on all day. Anyway, I digress.
All right, we are back for the extended roundtable here at Esports Weekly with Coca-Cola. And AJ, I believe that you had a question you want to lead off with.
We left off with our undying love, Alex and I, for Shadowrun. That's
right.
And if you remember
Well done.
correctly, though, there was something very interesting done with that game on a competitive level that not really a whole lot of people have done since, and that's console versus PC.
Yeah, that was a bad idea.
Why? I mean, this has been tried a few times, though. Why don't you like that?
Well, I mean, honestly, when you really get down to it, and there's no sugarcoating it, right? I mean, when you are a PC player, you have full range of motion with your arm. The aiming is better. I think Shadowrun did it the best out of everyone, but I personally don't think that mixing the two makes sense.
Yeah.
PC players have, and I wouldn't say an unfair advantage, just the ability of the keyboard and mouse, which is better and more accurate than the controller, which everyone who knows me and knows that I'm a console diehard will give me crap for, but you just got to be real.
Yeah,
it's true.
But there's also been a lot of advances in technology since then. You know, Steam controller just came out, so they have their wide array of customization options there. And even I spent some time in Japan, and they even have like Left 4 Dead in arcades with like half an Oculus controller and like a Razer mouse, which are still trying to make it work. So do you think there are going to be advances like technology which may even the playing field a little bit more?
Maybe, but I don't know. I don't.
No, absolutely not.
I don't. Maybe, but I don't see
The
it
only
being a
advance that you can
thing
have, I
people
think,
want.
is Microsoft announcing that you can plug a keyboard and mouse into your Xbox.
Right.
Let's be honest. Like that's it. The motion that you can get with a mouse and the kind of macros that you can have with a keyboard compared to a controller, like there's only so many buttons on a controller, whereas you've got infinite amount essentially on a keyboard. Like how many keyboards have you seen that you can just keep on extending and extending and extending? It's like gets a little crazy. But honestly, I don't think when it comes down to it, anything you can touch a mouse.
Or we can just get that big ass Phantasy Star Online keyboard GameCube. I love that thing. I want to see that at a Smash tournament. That's what I want.
Bad idea. I don't think that was a good idea.
Xbox One Mech controllers.
Oh, that was a good idea. Yeah, man. I
You like that
mechs.
one, really?
I like mechs, dog.
So Alex, I want to talk about something that you mentioned before. You talked about games as a live service. In the PC world, we've seen this for years now. As games have gone to a live service, that usually you have a game that started as a platform, and then you kind of add content to it, you support it over time.
Yep.
Is that possible with the way consoles are going right now? We see it with Destiny, but let's look specifically at Call of Duty. When you have a new game out every single year, can you actually support it like a live service?
It's their model, right? Activision makes a butt ton of money off of that game, and I don't fault them for releasing a new version. And they have this cycle pretty much perfected at this point. Now it's Treyarch's turn, next is Infinity Ward's turn, then it's going to be Sledgehammer's turn, and that's just the way they're going about doing it. They did release Call of Duty Online in China, where actually, funny enough, a professional console team went and competed over their Team Envy. And it was, it was cool, right? And the game actually mixes a lot of the elements of, what makes Call of Duty cool. It had Call of Duty 4 map crash, but it had, I think, the...
Wet work as well.
Yeah, it had wet work. But it also included, I think, the FAMAS from Black Ops 1. So it just had the ACR. It had a lot of like really cool elements of it, but honestly, that's going to be there. I don't know. That's like Halo Online.
So that's
in Russia.
cool, but I'm going to challenge you a little bit here. I'm going to say that Valve with Counter-Strike had a game a few years ago in CS:GO that was not that popular. It didn't work out that well for them at first, and I'm setting Ben up for this one, and I love it too. I can watch his face. That game has massively expanded in popularity. It's arguably the most popular game right now. For certain reasons that I'm sure Ben will talk about in a second. I would say, though, that Valve has continued to use that game as a platform and a live service. They've continued to add content updates to it because that does, in their mind, keep the competitive scene a little bit more focused, whereas you can't necessarily do that with a Call of Duty if it comes out every single year. But Ben, what do you think Counter-Strike's success is due to?
I would like to kind of preset this with I love Counter-Strike, love it as an esport. I think it's phenomenal, the growth that it's had. But the betting in CSGO is a huge, huge factor as to why we've seen the growth in Counter-Strike. It is. Like I know friends of mine who just kind of like playing the game casually, who will kind of create multiple accounts trying to get drops in streams. And it's like, okay, that's going to boost the viewership, it's going to boost kind of everything. But the gambling in itself, it kind of doesn't force you to watch, but as soon as you get attached emotionally to something, especially financially, you're going to watch it. It really is as simple as that. And especially, you see streamers now kind of dropping like $10,000 of skins, just gambling, and it's like, well, okay, this just became real. Like $10,000, that's a lot of money on something in a video game.
Yes, it is.
And for me, one of the big issues with kind of the console side of things, as opposed to the PC side of things, is you're never really going to get that with console because of the way you have to update and the patches that come through. For example, CSGO, different skins come out all the time. You don't have that in kind of console. It's much more difficult to try and do.
But you do see games gravitating towards that, though. We were talking about Destiny before. Destiny is modeled after a lot of MMO things that we've seen on PCs in the past.
So I want to say, so first, I'm going to echo my good friend Sir Scoots, who we all know and love.
Yeah, which we mentioned gambling, and I'm sure he's like turning over his best.
No. So, and I agree with everything that Scoots said. I'm okay with the betting. I'm okay with all that stuff. It's the underage part that I'm not okay with.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing that I'm concerned about.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at consoles, which it tends to gravitate younger.
Exactly.
I would agree with that.
So it's like that's my big concern. So that's for you.
No, and anytime you get money involved, no, you're right, because anytime you get money involved, there is a problem, especially when there's more money being poured in than the players are necessarily receiving. Like we just had another major match fixing scandal in Korea for StarCraft 2 again, as the scene has lost a lot of money recently. Players aren't making as much, but there's a lot of illegal betting. And so when you introduce money into an ecosystem where betting is involved, you do have to watch it quite a bit.
So but the other element too, though, is looking at Halo 5, which is actually a great example. So they are introducing the rec pack system with the release of Halo 5 Guardians. And what that is basically is, skins and all that. So it's still kind of pandering to that thing. You can actually purchase, I think, like access for packs. You can purchase rec packs and then, draw the dice, you could get yourself a nice skin.
Sure.
And that like a rare skin, right? And they'll indicate what's rare, what's not rare. It's all in the game code itself. And I actually think that's great. Advanced Warfare started to do that as well a little bit.
They
had
touched
their
on it,
cases.
supply drops.
They had the supply drop cases, and it was a little bit different. I think rec packs are going to be very popular and very crucial for the success of Halo 5 financially.
The way I agree with you there is based on two words: crowdfunding. If you can kind of mix something like that, where you say, okay, here is this rec pack, it's worth, just give a random number.
FYI, another thing taken from PC. So that's like, they're all kind of doing it right.
That goes back to like the whole conversation before. It's kind of, reactive, not proactive. So it's like, hey, here's crowdfunding, which works. Let's kind of do it. So let's say a rec pack is $5. You take $2, you add it to a prize pool. And then you can make those skins esports themed.
Like if you have like they were going to do that. So
exactly, which is like, okay, this is
skins
positive thinking. We're kind of catching up to Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike do that all the time. You can buy your favorite team stickers, you can put them on your guns, etc. That to me is that customization which makes players want to play more. As if you have like your favorite player or your favorite team logo on your weapon, it's like, hey, Alex, you see my AK skin? I got Team Envy's logo on there now. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's badass. As soon as you can kind of get that in console, it kind of grows the brands of the teams, and it kind of grows your, again, emotional investment to the esport.
Yeah, and in a way, this is actually how MLG started off in the early days as well. I mean,
Right.
some of the first gamer icons on Xbox 360
Yep.
were like all MLG branding.
Yep.
I
And
got my final boss. Still rocking it. Yeah, no, I would say, and to MLG's credit, I think that's actually one of the things that they always did really well, which was like, brand the teams,
Yeah.
get more of that, like opportunity and exposure in there. They always did that back in the Pro Circuit days. I thought they did that like really, really well. But now it's kind of been leaned more toward, well, the team should be doing this because more organizations are getting involved, and I think that's probably the more exciting bit of it. Like, it was really cool to commentate a Halo event that had Evil Geniuses, Cloud9, Denial Esports, CLG, Winter Fox, like all these like orgs that you see in League and Dota and Counter-Strike, and they're involved in Halo, which I think is fantastic.
That's
and
awesome.
one day I want them involved in COD, and Rocket League, and all that stuff. It's very exciting.
yeah.
Please, Rocket League.
And even then, like in the early days of Halo 2, like with the final boss era and everything, that was almost kind of like a precursor to LCS even,
Yeah.
really. It's like, do you think there's actually room for an LCS system to try again in shooters?
I don't know.
Yes.
You think so?
100% yes.
I
I think, again, it's just going to kind of take time. We've seen Call of Duty announce, Call of Duty
Yeah,
World
the
League.
World League. Yeah.
Guess what?
That's pretty close.
It's,
No, no, it
it's
is.
as close as you're going to get, because
I
one
agree,
of the big problems, again, it comes to developer support, right? You look at the LCS, you look at the way they do the splits. Guess who's funding that? That isn't an external company, it's the developer of the game, and that massively helps.
Yeah.
You look at what's happened in Call of Duty the past years, MLG's been doing the Pro Leagues, etc. As soon as Activision says, hey, we're going to do a Pro League, we're going to do it properly, have the teams play online as opposed to online. That's another kind of big issue. You look at LCS, the validity comes from that because you have the teams playing in the same room online, like every single weekend, which
Yeah.
is awesome. COD, you're playing online, you have latency issues, and that's always going to be a complaint from players. And I don't want to say it loses validity, but it kind of somewhat it somewhat does, right?
It causes a problem.
It does.
Without a doubt.
So speaking of Activision and deciding to put on this big league, they've also been announcing that there's been some major changes over there. They're actually starting a brand new Esports Division that is going to take Mike Sepso from the co-founder and president of MLG is going to be going over there. They've hired the CEO of ESPN to take on a role there as well. So this is major moves in the space.
Yeah.
So what do you think about those sort of media organizations coming together? Is it a good thing that they're bringing in ESPN to consult and help out with this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I think the more kind of expertise you can take from different fields and different areas within kind of just production as a whole, the better it's going to be, right? Like, take someone from ESPN who's been doing live sports broadcasting. They'll be able to give you just like a little hint, a little tip somewhere different that you may not actually think of when it comes to esports. And I think that's, for me, when you look at production side, something very, very exciting, just how everything can kind of improve. I am actually really excited for World League next year for Call of Duty. I think it's going to be exciting times.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, CEO from ESPN is a little bit different than a creative mind, right? So I think that, I don't know how much influence that is going to be. I mean, same thing for Sepso. I've known Sepso for many years. He's an awesome dude, big fan of his. And I don't know, like, I know that they're going to create this amazing structure, right? And they're going to, really get into the weeds with that, which is going to be fantastic. I'm more about like, okay, how's the show going to look, right?
Yeah.
And,
For sure.
And I think that's going to be the bit that I'm really interested in critiquing and looking at, because Call of Duty certainly deserves that. It certainly, and I'm not saying like, I think MLG Pro League, I think the concept of it was the right direction. And if they're playing on LAN and all that, then I think that's great. I think you
are
they?
that.
Is it confirmed that
Yes.
they're playing on LAN?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's confirmed.
No, I actually haven't. I don't know.
Yeah.
when we
So
were-
I think
that was
crossed.
no,
Fingers
100%.
crossed, guys.
I really think that that's what it needs to take it to that next level, because without that, you're still going to have professional players saying, "Oh, I'm playing on latency." Like, for me, coming over from England, I didn't realize kind of like connection issues from East Coast to West Coast. It's horrible. Like, I can't do it on a console game. I didn't realize it was that bad. I thought playing from England to France was bad.
Right.
Little did I know, LA to New York is a little bit big of a difference.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. But then on a professional level, you think about that. When you're casually sat at home playing Call of Duty or playing Halo, whatever video game it is you play on console, you think about how annoying it is when you kind of get someone across the country on host and you're like, oh, that sucks. Professional level, it's even worse. That small advantage that someone can take casually, extrapolates across to a huge advantage.
We've seen that in plenty of PC games too. Trust
Yeah.
me, I understand that.
Yeah.
Latency sucks, guys.
Really
Yeah.
good. Okay,
That's
so
the lesson for today.
So we've kind of covered off on the future of Call of Duty. We know Worlds is coming up. That's going to be in a good place. I'm going to talk about 3 other titles, though, one at a time.
Yeah.
And 2 of them you know, one of them will be a bit of a surprise, but start with Halo 5. This is the franchise, like I said, that really roped me into competitive gaming initially. I have big hopes for Halo 5. I really wanted to do well. I've had a lot of people tell me that Breakout is something to look for, that it's going to be important. How do you guys feel that Halo 5 is going to fare? Do you think that it has a good chance to rise back up to the top?
Yeah, definitely. This iteration, without a doubt, for the first time ever, guys, brace for it. There's a spectator mode in Halo 5.
Yeah!
Wow! It's like, man, like whoever thought, as I live and breathe. I think that actually is going to be a deciding factor for a lot of people, right? Because when we did the HCS, Twitch, ESL, and 343, we knew right away that was going to be like a major hurdle. Game having issues as well. That aside, we knew that the hurdle was going to be keeping people engaged each and every event when they can only broadcast from their perspectives, because we cannot broadcast from a neutral point of view unless we flew everyone in, which at the time wasn't financially viable, right? Like it was. I think like HCS seasons 1 and 2 was just a great starting point for 343 to learn how they want to approach esports. Even for Twitch too, because one thing that I always enjoyed was everyone will always look at it and they would say like, "Oh man, that was such a fun event, right? I didn't know Halo could be that impressive." I was like, "Yeah, man, it's awesome. Like watch it, right? It's amazing." And I think everyone was like super happy with that, right? Because it just taught a lot of lessons to us all. Got a lot of grassroots tournament organizers involved, which I thought was fantastic. But now it's like with Halo 5, I look at this as like the opportunity to not only grow the grassroots, which I personally believe is the most important thing, and I can get into that, by the way, because I think grassroots is one of the most important aspects of esports, and then you worry about, like Pro League and all that stuff. You need to build a base before you can build the top of the mountain.
So, but let's talk though about why Halo may have had a decline in popularity in the first place. Halo Reach, Halo 4, people are like, well, these mechanics are way different than they used to be. This is tangibly a different game.
You just have to be honest. Like the Halo fans kind of lost their passion for the Halo game because it wasn't the Halo they were used to. It's true. It really is that simple.
And I think there's also a change in the landscape of esports as well. If you were going to an MLG event at the time, you're used to seeing Halo up on the main stage everywhere. But then StarCraft started coming in, League of Legends started coming in, and it was very strange to compete in that space.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it just wasn't. There's a lot of theories, right? There are a lot of theories. I do not know why Reach and 4. Honestly, with 4, a lot of people had a lot of expectations, and they just were not met. And it wasn't until the turbo update, as my friend Quinn DeHoyo calls it, where they made the BR 4 shot and they did all that, where Halo 4 actually got a little bit better, but it still had glaring issues. It still had sprint, which was not really good in that mechanics of that game. No D-scope, which was a real a big no-no, honestly. Like, I could have handled sprint, but D-scope was a thing where it was like you needed to just boot that out of the game. Like, it needed to be D-scope in so that whenever you got shot, you came out of scope, for those of you guys who may not know. What was it? No idea. Could it have been maybe the market changing, right? Like
probably a mixture of
fans
everything,
wanted
right?
more unique experiences. I don't know, right? But I think Halo 5 is at a point where it's good enough to like really just entice people and get them happy about it.
For sure.
So.
Cool. All right, so let's cover off on the next one then. Gears of War, also going to have a huge boot. I will
talk for a little bit. Ben, sorry, man.
You loved
Here's
it.
the only
You
little bit of cred that I'll be able to throw down. You're talking to a top 25 assassination player from Gears of
watch
War
out.
1.
Really?
So
Yo,
the
watch
mode
out.
that no one ever played.
Yeah, no,
I was
if you wanted to get on the leaderboard, assassination was the
top
game time.
25, baby.
Yeah.
So,
we've all taken the Cheerio and like glued it to our TVs at some point just to get those shotgun kills.
but let's talk Gears of War. Does this have a real chance at actually re-entering the console esports scene?
So, not sure if you guys know, but there is the ESL Gears of War Pro League, which just came about. And again, this kind of serves that same exact thing I was mentioning before, right? Pro League's awesome, and I'm so happy that it exists. $50,000 for top 8 teams. I mean, you have teams like Envy, Swarm, there's Synergies, a bunch of really good squads in there. But I would say, when the 8 teams that didn't make it into Pro League were done, they were left questioning, well, what are we doing now?
Right.
And there really
Right.
wasn't much for them. And that's why building the base and building the
Grassroots,
grassroots, there you go, right there.
Grassroots.
That's what's so important. Do I think Gears has a chance? Hell yeah. I think Gears is fantastic. It's a fun game to play. It's super intense. By far some of the most intense moments I've had casting my short while casting Gears of War. It's been just insane. I've seen some shots that these players, there's one player on Swarm named Mental who just made this shot that I said it and I stand by this statement. It was the greatest shot I've ever seen in any esports game I've ever casted.
Oh, wow.
It was
I want to see.
amazing.
I want to see VOD. I want to see.
Yeah,
I want to
I
see
want to see
VOD.
VOD.
Show us the
VOD.
community.
Yeah.
It's a bold statement.
It was
okay?
amazing. It was such a good shot, and you know I think that the skill is there, and it needs to be appreciated, and it will because
Right.
the right people are involved, and you know Coalition's fantastic. They really care about
So
it.
and we have all this praise to sing about Gears, but let's also take a step back and talk here what we did about Halo. What caused the downfall of Gears in the first place?
I think for Microsoft Gears, they wanted it to be like the Halo 2.0. They wanted it to be the next big franchise.
did feel like
and
that,
it was
yes.
never really that. Gears was its own unique beast. It's a very different game. Right?
So different.
It's
Yes.
not.
It couldn't be more
It's
different.
not your traditional. I call it the fighters of first-person shooters because
It's such
so
a patient
different.
positioning game. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, even then, when you get to the high level, if you ever do watch it, it doesn't really become about duck and cover anymore. It becomes about wall bouncing. It becomes about like outsmarting your opponent in
Yep.
movement.
Wall bouncing
and
is
then
huge.
wall bouncing is amazing. There's one player, Toy Soldier.
Watching players wall
He's-
bounce.
Dude, there's one guy, Toy Soldier on Vex, one of the best players I've ever seen just move around the map. Phenomenon, another player, he's just like, these guys are fantastic. And like when you see what they do, it's so unique and you just cannot do that in any other game.
Sure.
Right? And that's why I think Gears has potential.
But again, you have to go back to the very, very beginning. You need that grassroots base.
Yes.
Because, well, like if the ultimate question is War going to succeed?
And
Just
and
with the
again,
Pro League? No, I don't think it will.
Credit to MLG, man. I mean, these guys were the ones that like really brought console esports to light, and they were the grassroots for Gears. And although it didn't get the love that it could have gotten, which is completely fine because I know the viewership wasn't like as strong as it was for Halo at the time. But I do believe that with proper care and attention, which the coalition is putting into, there is potential there. Hypha Station happened. I was there. That's a grassroots event. Like, we need more of that. We need more grassroots events for these console games. That's where we have to focus on. And let's build up to these pro leagues. And we're already doing it, so let's worry about that base. That's
sure.
my mentality.
Okay, so now for the last
Sorry,
of the
Ben,
three
I talked
console
too much.
games.
Just
that-
get it,
okay.
man.
It's all good.
So for the
I'll
la-
let you verbally-
Passion, man.
so
Passion,
much.
man.
Gears of War. So the last console game that I want to talk about, though, Smite. Not even you guys can get away from competitive MOBAs. So it's on Xbox. It has been played competitively on the console.
Yep.
Do you think it has an honest shot to actually be a competitive title?
I really do. I actually watched the MLG Finals this past weekend in New Orleans. A good friend, obviously Gandhi, he was out there doing some casting. And I kind of sat there and I thought to myself, okay, MOBA's on console. Is this really going to work? Like, is it
Yeah.
really
And
going to work?
it's been tried before, like a
It's
few
trial.
iterations.
I know Lord of Rings, they
Yeah.
tried
Yeah,
something
that's right.
out there. And I kind of sat there and I was like, nah, I'm a big League of Legends player. Love playing League of Legends. And I kind of sat down and I watched a couple of Smite games. I was like, actually, this isn't actually that bad. The interesting thing for me with Smite is the players on a professional level actually kind of have to play a little bit differently. Because the game isn't exactly the same. Obviously, you're playing with a controller now. You're not playing with a mouse and keyboard. So movement's a little bit different. Everything becomes a little bit different. So the skills actually change and shift, which is very, very interesting to me. It's the same game, but players at a professional level are actually playing it differently between PC and Xbox One. But again, the ultimate kind of answer to this, I personally think, is the support high-res give it. And that's going to be key for me if that game's going to be successful on Xbox One. But I genuinely think it has a good shot.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Smite Pro League, right, which it's awesome.
I mean,
and
we're running the Xbox One on now.
yeah,
on MLG,
exactly.
so.
Yeah,
Yes.
UMG's also doing
Yeah, they're doing that as well.
Smite as well. So yeah, fun fact. I mean, I'm doing the Smite World.
wanted
Smite
to
World.
look
So
at
I'm
this guy.
hosting.
Just gotta plug
I
himself
wanted to
again.
plug it in.
Just a
fun fact, guys. Yeah, I'll be hosting.
By the way,
just in
You
case
know,
you're wondering.
here's where you can find me.
I am a
I'll be
global
there.
icon and a national treasure.
Echoboy
It's just
FTW,
what I
guys.
do.
Echoboy FTW.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
Well, no, but
This
like,
guy.
but there's a reason why I do it. I have a mantra. It's you don't do
He's gonna make
something.
himself look good too.
You already know. Big and swaggy.
I just want to help improve.
So no. Here's the thing. I don't do something that I don't personally believe in. And when Hi-Rez reached out to me to do this, I've always been a fan of Smite. I watch SPL. I like it a lot. And when I found out that Smite was coming to Xbox, I thought that's perfect because this game actually fits really well with Xbox. It's not a traditional MOBA, right? MOBA, as we saw with that Lord of the Rings MOBA, just doesn't really work. And everyone thought, this could make, this could do it. No. It won't. Like, Smite works because it's like a shooter and it relates well to a console audience. So
Relates really well to console
yeah,
audience.
I think that the only hurdle that Smite could have is the complexity of the game. Admittedly, for console players, they're really into the one and done approach. Smite is a very complex game. Smite takes time. But again, kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where games are service. People want challenges now. They want a more diverse experience. So there's a potential that Smite could really find its bearings on Xbox One. It's too early to tell right now, though, because it's really in its infancy. But I think the potential's there, and I'm looking forward to seeing the future. And that was all for Gandhi.
Awesome. There you go. And the Smite question was actually asked to us by @Ryan Enigma on Twitter. So we have a couple other Twitter questions we want to cover off on too. @Tiberius Oddly said, "Why do console esports have such terrible roster stability?"
Oh, here we go.
Tiberius. I love Tiberius.
We're making Dota comparisons now.
Terrible roster stability. I feel like
I'm just reading what he said.
I feel like, especially with Call of Duty, we've seen it. Just console have a pretty bad stigma about roster movements. It happens a lot more than PC. Reason why? That's a tough question.
Well,
you can look at it, maybe maturity, I
Yeah,
guess.
so in HCS, actually, you couldn't, you had
You
like
roster
transfer
locked, right?
windows. Yeah, so honestly, HCS was the most stable I've ever seen rosters. Like, the fact you had CLG from season 1 all the way to end of season 1, the same roster, no changes at all. And then also the same thing with the second season. English is hard. But yeah, I think English.
I'll get it one day.
But yeah, I think it's been better than what it was recently, which is yay.
Do you think?
I mean, honestly, you had your roster manias, right, which happened on the MLG roster manias. Those things were.
But then
It's more money, though, right?
then-
And like as more money gets introduced, you do get a level of stability. I'm not saying it's great, but yeah.
I think, kind of going to your roster look, you look at MLG, the pro seasons that we had, or the pro league with Call of Duty, we had roster look. We had like transfer periods where teams could make changes, and you kind of saw it formalized, which to me is the key. You can have roster movements, but as long as they're structured and there's like structure to it, I think it kind of becomes a little bit more okay. I don't want to say okay because I
know what you mean, though.
I'm not really a fan of teams making changes. I want to see teams stick together and try and improve. I think that's more of a storyline.
But
The onus may be on organizers to produce a league structure that creates stability.
Exactly.
So,
Well,
yeah.
here's the other thing too, though. I do feel like with the MLG structure, it was the most stable it's been in a long time because like you knew like after an event that there was going to be a change.
So yes and no, because this is where it gets really interesting with prize pool. I think you look at some of the players who, Call of Duty, historically you have the World Championship, which is $1 million. You had a couple of other tournaments which weren't really that big of a prize. And then obviously what a player's going to do. You're thinking about the $1 million tournament. That's the one tournament of the year you want to have a great team with. This year, I think MLG did a good job of kind of increasing the prize money every single time. So you saw less of that, and that definitely coupled with the fact that we saw like transfer windows definitely kind of helped. But you go back historically in time.
Oh no, it was
Black Ops 2 Ghosts
One of the things I will
was bad.
always remember was Parasite.
for one day.
Was on Envy for one day. He was
Optic Gaming
he was,
for a day?
No, he was on Optic. Then he left and he joined Envy. He was on his way to the Envy house in North Carolina, and then midway through his trip, got an offer from FaZe, joined FaZe, and came right back. And I thought that was the craziest thing I had ever seen or heard in my life.
We see stuff like that so often where players are on teams for like a day and then all of a sudden change because it's kind of like there's no, again, previously wasn't really that much structure to it. It's like, hey Alex, you want a team?
Yeah.
You want a team? All right, let's team.
Yeah,
sure. And all of a sudden you're like, you want a team? I'm like, yeah, screw this Goldenboy guy. He sucks. I'm a team with you. That's basically kind of how it used to be. But then you get these, bigger organizations kind of come in, and that's when you really start seeing a little bit more stability.
And that is a perfect segue to our last viewer question as well, which comes in from It's Dirty Moose. Do you think that esports will ever get the same sort of regulation that other sports do.
Ooh, wow. That's
So
a tough
that certainly helps with the stability. We see right now, console esports, I would say, is dominated by MLG. You guys do a great job of supporting leagues and structures that go around the world. You probably are as close to a regulating body on console esports as it gets. Do you think something more is needed?
Yes. I think you always need more. I think that's the way you kind of improve everything. Knowing the league ops guys that we hire, they do a great job of really creating rule sets, trying to keep as much structure as possible. But I think the more structure, the better. Like, I would personally like to see players being fined. Like, if you miss a game, for example, fine the player. Like, that's something which needs to be a little bit more strict, especially with, some of these pro leagues being online. If you're missing games, you need to be punished for that. Like, this is your profession. If you're being paid a salary to play, there has to be some kind of negative if you do kind of mess up a little bit with that.
I also do think, though, that there needs to be player unions, not team unions, but player unions. I think it's super important.
Seeing more talks about that.
Yeah. You're
Across all
starting
of
to see
esports
it
now.
happen more because it's like, yes, you're right. Like, if a player is negligent and doesn't show up for their scheduled matchup, that makes a lot of sense. But oftentimes, tournament organizers are screwing over players, teams are screwing over players, teams are screwing over tournament organizers. So it's almost like you just
It's a vicious circle.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle. So you almost need a checks and balances to kind of regulate that. And I think that needs to be set across, it needs to be a standard across all games that have legitimate esports. Like, for some games, like, would I say that any of that stuff is necessary for Gears of War? No. Would I say any of that stuff is necessary right now for Rocket League? No.
But does
Hey,
it
don't hate
have
on
to
Rocket
be?
League.
But does it have to be determined on like a game-by-game basis, or can you have an organization like the old KESPA back in the Korean days of StarCraft Brood War that kind of was a regulation body for all of and still is for all esports in the country?
I feel like it changes, though.
See,
It's hard. It's a difficult question.
hard
Yeah.
because
If it was just one company with a monopoly over all of console esports, then yeah, I think you probably could have that. But because there's
that's
so
not,
many,
well, one, that's not good.
It's not good. I agree 100%. That's
it's
a
not
very,
good
very
at all.
bad thing.
Yes.
That's a terrible,
Especially when
terrible
games change every year.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a terrible thing. But that's the only way that realistically I can
It's
see
like,
something
do we
it
even
working.
want the government to get involved? They can't take care of their own crap. Do we even want them to get involved in our crap? I don't know, man.
But
Like,
we asked this.
hey, you're not from here, dude.
I'm not from these parts, man. Like,
Just
I
wait
was
till you
sitting
get
up,
back.
Talk about it.
yeah,
So-
for the queen. For the
Yeah,
queen.
but I mean, we asked this a couple of weeks ago. We talked about this on the roundtable when we had Snoopy and Charlie in. But there's almost $1 billion a year coming into the scene. We talked a little bit about match fixing in Korea that just happened as well in StarCraft. Like, eventually you're going to have enough money that bad things are going to happen if you don't regulate it somehow. You're going to have to approach that problem in some capacity. It's just how do you do it?
No, it's going to be approached. Again, yes, how do you do it? It's going to be coordination with a lot of bodies, not just, one group. It's going to take it's going to take an effort across the board. You know what I think would be really cool? Coca-Cola, obviously you're watching. What would be really cool is if IGN did a roundtable with all the different groups, right? So you have like representatives in console, representatives in fighters, and PC and Dota, and then you have a true roundtable debate about what this needs to be. That would be dope. But
So,
That's a good idea.
you guys represent Twitch and MLG. So we got 2 people on board now, right?
you go.
So you'll set us
we
up?
had
Okay.
Mike Ross earlier.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks very much, guys. Again, that is going to wrap up our extended roundtable as well. Thank you all for tuning in. We are going to have, like we said, a talk on StarCraft 2 next week and see if there needs to be any changes there coming into their latest expansion, Legacy of the Void. Thanks so much for tuning in again, and we'll see you next week.